Okay, so yesterday we left off with if you have a rational exponent, so a fraction, m over n, the bottom number is the root, the top number is the power. There's two different ways you can write those. You can write it as the mth root of a and raise everything to the m power. So when we're doing this one, the right two ways. Okay, so here's way number one. We can write this as the fourth root of 16 raised to the power of 3. We'll simplify that in a moment. Or the second method says that we can do the fourth root of 16 to the third power. Now keep in mind this is going to be a no calculator section. Okay, so something I definitely don't want to have to do is 16 to the third power without my calculator. Okay, so when you do this, I'm going to tell you what 16 to the third power is. Okay, it's 4,096. Okay, and then if I had to break that down without a calculator, I'd have to have a really big factor tree, right? That's a lot of work. We want to try to make it as simple as possible. So if you look at method number one, if you just take the fourth root of 16, what's that? 2. 2 to the third. 2 to the third is 8. Okay, so this is going to be 8. The fourth root of that is 8. Okay, so it says put a star by the one that is easier. So that first one we did together, okay, is easier. And in most cases it will be, especially if the numbers are larger. Okay, if they're smaller, a lot of times it won't matter. Okay, and then the definition, you can use that to prove the laws of exponents, and your book talks about that, so you're welcome to check that out. And the last thing we're going to talk about in 1.2 is rationalizing the denominator. So when you are rationalizing the denominator, why do we multiply both the numerator and denominator by the same value? Why do we do that? Yeah, we want to keep that ratio the same. So when you're multiplying by the same number on the top and the bottom, really, what are you multiplying by? If it's the same number over the same number, what is it equivalent to? 1. So you need to multiply by a value equal to 1. So the value of the expression stays the same. Okay, so you need to multiply by a value equal to 1, and that's so the value of the expression stays the same. Because whenever you multiply something by 1, you get the same thing. You get the same value, right? The reason why it's important to think about that is sometimes we might see something, that looks like this. Okay, that's what we have for A down here. And sometimes people might be thinking, oh, to undo a fourth root, I just have to do the fourth power. Well, you can't do that with an expression. If it was an equation, you could do to one side what you do to the other, but this would not be allowed. Okay, so we have to multiply the top and the bottom by the same value. So this says if the denominator was the 6th root of a to the 4, what would you multiply the numerator and denominator by? Explain by showing the mathematical steps. So let's write this as 1 over the 6th root of a to the 4th. Okay, and then can you guys write down what you would want to multiply by to rationalize that? And if you aren't sure, you can just think about it. Think about what rationalizing the denominator means. Okay, so when you are rationalizing the denominator, remember we talked about the other day, there's rational numbers and irrational numbers. Okay, when you're rationalizing it, you're taking something that's irrational, this square root, and you're making it rational. That's where the name comes from. Okay, so we're going to multiply by, what did you guys come up with? Yep, the 6 root of a squared. So when you're rationalizing, you have to know what the index value is. Our index value is 6. So that means we need 6 factors in order to take that out of the radical. So if you have the 6 root and you're multiplying those together, a to the 4th times a to the 2nd would be the a to the 6th power. And the 6 root of a to the 6th is what? A. Okay, and then 1 times anything is itself. So this is what your final answer will look like. Okay, and then it says, what is the formula the textbook gives you to figure this out? This formula is only if the value of m is less than n. Sorry, I'm thinking about what I want to use. Okay, so your formula would be the nth root of a to the n minus m. Okay, and this formula would be used for a to the m power. All right, so if you were given like this, you have the 6, a to the 4th, okay? In this case, 4 is less than 6, 6 minus 4 is 2, that's how we know what we can multiply by. All right, so based on that, will you guys go ahead and do A and B? If you've done A and B, you want to get your textbook out and start working on that. All right, so for this one, if you use the formula, this is to the 1st power, so 4 minus 1 is 3. So you're multiplying by the 4th root of x cubed. And the reason why we're doing that is so on the bottom, you have the 4th root of x to the 4th, which we know is going to cancel out to make x. And then on the top, you would just leave it as 2 4th root of x cubed. Okay, and I know that isn't like a pretty answer, so sometimes people are like, oh, that doesn't feel right. That is correct. Okay, just make sure that this exponent is lower than that index number. And then there's actually 2 different ways to do part B. So because m is not less than n here, you could first simplify it and then use this formula, or you can just find the next multiple. So besides what's a number is larger than 8 that 6 goes into evenly? 12. So how many more would I need to get to 12? 4. So I can multiply by the 6th root of a to the 4th on the top and the bottom. Okay, that will give me the 6th root of a to the 12th on the bottom. How many times does 6 go into 12? Twice, so this is a squared. So a to the power of 2. Okay, and then of course we're multiplying by 1. So this is going to be your final answer. Okay, or some of you might have said, oh, I can simplify that right away. So 6 goes into 8 one time with 2 left over. In that case, it would be set up in a similar way here. 6 minus 2 is 4, so we're going to multiply by the 6th root of a to the 4th. And then when you're thinking about how that simplifies, here you have the 6th root of a to the 6th, which becomes a. So you're multiplying a times a, and just remember, a times a is a to the 2nd. Okay, not 2a, so you're going to use your power. All right, so for the rest of the time, I'm going to let you guys work on your assignment. I've also posted the key online so that you guys can check that before you submit.